The president has a responsibility constitutionally to nominate someone, but it's a 50-50 decision between the White House and between the United States Senate on any Supreme Court nominee. So the president has the first 50%. The Constitution is very clear that they actually put him in place, and he actually does the nomination. The second 50% is the Senate, advice and consent. If the Senate says this is not the right time or this is not the right person, then they actually use that advice and consent. And we announced from the United States Senate a month ago that no, we're not going to try to move on someone in an election year. This has been the same thing that we've done throughout decades of history in the Senate, that we don't put people in the Supreme Court during the final year of an administration. Now we'll have other nominees. We'll have nominees for lower courts and circuit courts. We'll have nominees for cabinet officers, just like this week. We'll have lots of legislation. So the Senate is still open and doing business. But we've already laid down the marker. The same rule is going to apply this year as it has in previous years, that we don't nominate to the Supreme Court in the final months of a president's term. Yeah, the court continues to meet as normal right now. They have 8 justices. That's happened multiple times over the history of the court. In fact, when the court first began, there were only 6 justices on the court in the earliest days. Then it shifted to 10, and then it went back to 9. It's been 9 for a long time, but lots of times that it's been 8. The quorum for a Supreme Court is only 6 on a Supreme Court. And so they continue to hear cases, they continue to meet, they continue to make decisions. They've done it for the last several weeks, and they'll continue to do that. Even if we went through the nomination process right now, the earliest this person could be seated would be this fall, which is the short session of the Supreme Court. So again, we're missing out on a couple of weeks of session for the Supreme Court based on their session this fall. So it's not a relevant issue as far as their day-to-day work. If they end up in a 4-4 tie, which would rarely occur, then the lower court ruling still applies, and it can come back to the Supreme Court in a future day. So this has happened lots of times in history and is not an issue that the Supreme Court is at 8 members right now, and they can continue to meet.